Harwitz with a special edition of Amazing Conversations with Naismith Hall of Famer Marv Albert, the voice of the Knicks for almost 40 years and practicing my friend for half a century. Marv, I don't know if you know, you and the late Jim Bouton are responsible for me getting my job at the Mets. It's my 44th year. When I was the SID at Fairleigh Dickinson, I came to you with every cockamamie idea I had: a one-arm fencer, a one-arm soccer player, priest who played hockey. 43-year-old freshman football player, baseball player got hit by 100, pitch 128 times. You guys ran them all. The Mets at that time were looking for a weirdo PR guy, and hence I got hired because of you and Jim. Remember those good old days?
I forgot about that. I remember there was this annoying public relations person.
Yes.
Who would come up with ideas that we felt he made up, actually. But you were successful with it. That was the start of a
and that's the reason I got hired, because when the late Frank Cashman was looking for a PR guy, he was looking for a notwithstanding somebody had a crazy personality, and they showed him all my stuff, and I got hired in 1980, and because of you and Jim. I don't know if you remember, you and Jim were nice enough to come to my retirement dinner at FDU when they said goodbye to me, or good riddance, in the case may be.
Jay, it's been it's always been great dealing with you, because even when there might be tough questions I might ask of one of the Met players, as you may recall, when I was doing a pre and post, I used to get that look from you.
Yes.
Yes, you recall that.
I do.
But you were always so good about it,
well,
and it always ended up with a laugh.
Well, that's how I try.
You did such a great job. Actually, I know before you called me to do your show, I know you reached out to Steve, but he told you he was busy walking his dog Chumpy, couldn't make it. You called out for my brother Al. He said he was busy, and I think you called my son Kenny, who just said no. I mean, emphatically, which I think is uncalled for.
Marv,
I'm here, and I'm delighted to be.
Well, Marv, what was in the blood at the Albert family? Yourself, Kenny, Steve, Al, all great announcers. And how proud of you, Kenny? I think the only announcer today does play-by-play in 4 different sports.
Yeah, I'm extremely not only proud of the work he's done, but he's such a humble young guy, and he just handles everything so kindly with people. But he actually went on the road with me quite a bit. I switch off taking my kids to games when I be at college basketball or NBA, NBC days. Kenny was my stat guy at the Olympics when we did the Dream Team. I mean, there's so many instances of that. My daughter Denise would go, and son Brian, my daughter Jackie. But Kenny grew up kind of interested in sportscasting and doing it the same way that Al, Steve, and I did. We would turn down the sound on the TV and would have mostly with baseball first, and we would put a crowd record on in the background and would call the game on our tape recorder. Or Al, Steve, and I would be in the basement playing ping pong, and would be calling ping pong until Al lost the point and would lose it and slam the racket against the door or against the table. And my mother would yell down, "What's going on?" We say nothing. But and he broke a few rackets along the way. But we would always, I grew up wanting to be a sportscaster when I was in the 3rd grade. And I think that's probably the story of a lot of people who are doing that work. It begins early. And I remember for a teacher by the name of Mrs. Lepowski, an English teacher, I remember writing an essay of what I want. You always have an assignment. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I said I'd like to be calling the Knicks, the Rangers, maybe baseball. I did a little baseball when I first started, but the Knicks and Rangers, certainly turned out to be. It began in our basement, with a tape recorder.
Mark, let me talk about Willis Reed for a second. The Guardian is good. Nixon to honor Willis with a scholarship in March.
Right.
I to the black colleges, and $60,000, and with went to Grambling. What kind of? I know Willis was very special to you, right?
He was a wonderful guy. That whole team, the 69-70 championship team, and then they won again at 72-73. Just a bunch of great guys, very intelligent team on the court, as we saw. Uh, Terrific coach in Red Holzman. There was, Bradley and DeBuscher and Reed and Barnett and Clyde.
I had season tickets that year in the blue seats
Oh, and
with
the
my
Blue
good friend
Seat.
Harold
Oh,
Levine.
okay. Yeah. That was a nice year to have season tickets.
Yeah.
It was a very special team. I remember they won their first 5 games and they went 21-3. Uh, this after many years of having having difficulties, but the trade for DeBuscher really added to that group. I mean, he was at the time he was a player coach for the Detroit Pistons. Actually, tried to trade himself to the Celtics once, uh, and but Dave was so important. He was. I would have to say, if he and Jerry Lucas played today, they'd be among the leading 3-point shooters, leading in that department, because they would take shots from 25 feet out, 30 feet out. But what DeBuscher did for the team was he was that missing part. As good as they were, they needed one more. And that was a great trade. It was Howard Komives and Walt Bellamy, as I recall, for DeBuscher.
Well,
So
tell me about Game 7 in '70. I remember him sitting up there, and is Willis going to play or not going to play? He comes out, hits his first 2 shots, and Knicks win.
I was doing, aside from doing a game, I was doing a pregame show, and I did an interview with Willis in the locker room. He had taken a shot for his leg because he was out the previous game. He had a bad injury. No one thought he would play. He said to me on the pregame, he'll play. He said that he's going to play. And, athletes will say that. You don't believe it. And so the Lakers take the floor to warm up. The Knicks take the floor, and the crowd is buzzing because Willis was not with them. And then at the very last second of the warm-ups, from right underneath our broadcast booth, it's Willis. I said, here comes Willis, and the crowd is one of the loudest crowds I've ever heard, and the Lakers all stopped and stared. That was a Laker team of Wilt Chamberlain, also Jerry West, who hadn't won a championship up to that point, as great as he was. It was a really good Laker team. Jim McMillan was on it, I recall. And they just stopped and stared. They couldn't believe that Willis, was going to actually play. And the fans cheered his warm-ups. He took a couple of shots to get ready. That was it, a couple of jump shots. And the game starts, and he hobbles out and hits his first 2 shots. And I don't believe necessarily in inspiration early first quarter, but they played the game of their lives, led by Walt Frazier, and that was underrated because he had 36 points, 19 assists, which was, ridiculous numbers. But they really rolled over the Lakers in Game 7 to win the championship, their first in the NBA.
Marv, you've had over 30 broadcast partners. A couple of them that caught my attention were Bill Parcells and Steve Kerr with his background. I mean, Steve was with you before he started to coach, right? I mean,
Right. He was with me for about four years, and we did the NCAA and we did the TNT NBA schedule. Then he became a general manager with the Phoenix Suns. Then he came back to us for another 4 years, and then became the coach of the Golden State Warriors, and of course had great success.
did you think he would go on to what he did when he was with you? I mean,
I didn't think anyone would have that kind of success. For 4 straight years, he's a commentary on the NBA, and we knew he was a very smart guy. He was terrific with people. He's always great when you listen to him after games, be it about the game or politics, similar to Greg Popovich. But he played for Pop And I think that was a great influence on the way he would handle players. He was just terrific with the guys and was fortunate, obviously, to have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond
Yeah.
Green. And they built around those guys and won 4 titles.
How about Parcells as a partner?
Bill, it was so much fun. I know you know, excuse me, Bill well. He was a terrific sports fan and really knew his stuff. We used to play. He was into the Giants, even then into NFL stuff. This is after his first go round with the Giants, and excuse me, he also was a big NBA fan, and he'd come ready in the morning when we go out to the stadium on a Friday. He would try to stump me on initials of NBA players. And he would actually do research on this. But he knew his stuff with other sports. He really did follow a little bit of hockey, but mostly
He's a big
NBA.
baseball guy too. He loved baseball.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did know. We had baseball matches also.
Mark, which years I think did you do the pre and post game with HN? I forget. I mean,
For the Mets,
yeah.
I was there for the it was late 60s, 69 for the World Series, the championship. In fact, Ron Sloboda worked with me on the air on the pre and post. And it was great to have him with me. And I did it through 72, 73. Then the station WHN changed to Yankee baseball. So I did for the Yankees.
You did the
Okay.
69 World Series?
Yeah.
What do you remember? Favorite Tom Seaver game?
I have more memories of 86 because I was doing pre and post with Bob Costas for NBC. And I can remember the game where Mookie
The Buckner ball.
hit the ground ball that went through the legs of.
Were you in the lot? Were you in the Red Sox locker room too with everybody
No,
else?
I was actually I was in a Met dugout
Really?
because Bob and I would flip a coin before the game to see which team we'd cover at the end of the game. So I was in the Met dugout, and I remember Keith left the dugout. He went into the clubhouse.
He was sitting with me in Davy Johnson's office, and I was trying to figure out how we're going to
Really?
explain that
Kevin
we
Mitchell
won
also
114
Kevin
games and couldn't
did
win the
Kevin
World
take off
Series.
his uniform?
He was sitting there, and I was sitting in a chair. We had to go to the bathroom, and after Gary Carter let off for the hit, he said, "Hold it, don't go." So he had his uniform.
There's
It
a
was
lot of
unbuttoned.
good information.
Yeah, there was. He had it was unbuttoned. And it was really amazing that we were behind the next day and we won. And that was crazy. So I know Gary Cohen, all our guys are big fans of yours. I know Harry Rose views you as a protege. You paved the way from to hockey stuff, and you were nice enough to do a little thing when Gary and Harry got inducted into a Hall of Fame this year. Was very much appreciated by them.
I think the Mets are blessed by having the broadcast teams that they have. Of course, Howie I've known from his early days when he was a kid,
Right.
and would come up to the station at WHN. So we go back to that. And then I had recommended him to Sports Phone. That's where he started out.
That's where he started. Yes,
yeah. And then he ended up getting a job at WHN doing sports reports, and ended up then eventually with the Mets. But I think he is just tremendous on the air, not because I recommended him. And I think that Gary, Keith, and Ron are easily the best broadcast crew.
Yeah.
Not only locally, but on any level. They are just tremendous. It's a combination of knowledge and humor. And
they get along well together. You've been together for so long.
it's terrific. Yeah.
Well, give me the history of the two phrases you're most famous for. Yes, in basketball, and kick saving and beauty in hockey.
Yes comes from when I was a kid playing in the schoolyard. There was a friend of mine who would be, I was kind of shy, but a friend of mine would announce the games as we were playing 3-on-3. There's always someone doing play by play. And if you'd hit a basket, he would go, yes. And it was something that came from, there was a referee by the name of Sid Borgia, who was a very, very colorful. Actually, his son ended up as the head of the officials at one point just a couple of years ago. But Sid was very animated in his calls. And if there was a basket scored and the player would be fouled, he'd go, yes, and it counts. So I started using yes just, I guess, early in my career, and it seemed to catch on. Even the players were repeating it to me, at practice or whatever, and it just happened to catch on. I tried not to overuse it, but if it was a big basket, I would use it. Kick save and a beauty. I don't know where that came from, to be honest. That just, it happened to be a good kick save, and it was done beautifully.
Marv, you still follow the Knicks and Rangers closely, I'm sure. I mean,
I do.
you,
Yeah,
you get
I
to go to Garden much?
I go here and there. Yes, once in a while. I watch a lot of games. I mean, in my retirement, I've become not only watching a lot of sports events, which I couldn't do as much when I was traveling, but I'm Mr. Binge TV. I work out a lot. I basically drive my wife crazy, but we share in our binging, TV binging. I became, and I read a lot. I read about 5-6 newspapers every day. I'm into politics, and I love political stuff also.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I like to hold a newspaper in my hand. I'm not a Kindle guy. I
I Yeah, I like to have the Times and the Wall Street Journal in my hands, but I do go digital with the Post and the News, and I do like USA Today also. So,
yeah.
and the LA Times, particularly on the weekends, is good, as is the Boston Globe, their sports section on the
You have
weekend.
more
This
papers
is too
than
much information regarding reading, but that's it.
yeah, but I know Howie and Gary, they're good guys, and listen, I appreciate our friendship through the years, and honestly, if it wasn't for the exposure that you and Jim gave me, I would still be in colleges, and you know, and when I did the interview for the job, and I listed all my accomplishments, Frank said,
Yeah.
"You got to be making this stuff up, right?" I said, "No, unfortunately, unfortunately, it was true. I almost got fired a couple of times at Fairleigh Dickinson because I said I was given the wrong perception of the kind of athletes we had here. Anytime there's something normal on campus, it would come to me. But hey, Marv, I appreciate our being a friend. You're always there for me, and
Same here,
hope to
Jay.
see you out there in City Field this next
I
year.
definitely hope to see uh, more Met baseball summer.